Welcome to Kids Express.
Join us as we see kids express their love for Jesus
while developing their character.
on Kids Express!
Welcome to 3ABN Kids Express. Today we're going to meet a young man who has a passion for technology and is persistent in bringing a friend and even two of them to his church club meetings. I'm Aunt Francine.
And I'm Steven. Can you guess where in the world today's guest comes from? Can you identify what country this is? This may be a hard one for you guys.
It is. It's in the Caribbean.
If you guessed St. Lucia, you would be correct. Let's welcome Quan. Hi, Quan.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
So tell us a little bit about St. Lucia.
So it's 27 miles long. We have a national bird called the Amazona versicolor. It has many of its colors comes from our flag.
Very interesting. And I know we have some figs here, and that seems to be a very popular snack from the St. Lucia. Do you grow any figs over there in St. Lucia?
Yes.
Yes, that and bananas, right?
Yes.
And also, I hear that St. Lucia is also home to lots of incredible marine life, such as dolphins, whales, and sea turtles.
Yes, because it's in the Caribbean, so
Yeah.
I really like the sea turtles myself. You're right, and I know that there's a lot of islands there. I think about 7,000 islands near there,
That's a lot.
and they're all non-active, we say, volcanic islands. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So how are you a witness for Jesus? I know we mentioned something about you bringing some friends over to your church club meetings.
One day we invited them, and then we usually come to pick them up every afternoon and bring them to the club meetings.
So how did you even get started about inviting them? What prompted you to invite them to your church club meetings?
But we decided to help them because we wanted to introduce them to Jesus and help them to grow in Jesus.
How long have they've been coming there? How long have they been coming over to your church club meetings every afternoon?
For about 1 month.
For about a month.
That's a long time.
So that's a good persistent, a little more than a month. That's pretty consistent. And so you hope to do that. And you mentioned something about one of your friends. Can you talk about that?
Yes.
You saw a change.
Yes, I could see them that they weren't lying as much, and they were more godlike. Like they were more nicer to their friends and family.
You know, that's very important to note that you had an influence in even changing their character, because now you're seeing a change in them, and now you're not seeing them lie anymore. So we never know what kind of seeds we can plant. So maybe even inviting our friends to a church club meeting. And what do you do at your church club meetings?
We usually do different activities, like cutting out different things or coloring stuff, like coloring Bible story pictures.
That's
and
nice.
Stuff like that.
So you enjoy
Or
making
sometimes
crafts?
Yeah, sometimes we would go out and give stuff to the poor.
Very interesting. So they enjoy doing that, and then they have a Bible story to go with that. That's
That's nice. I wish more churches would do that.
I wish, and you know, that brings me another note that we have a lot of crafts on our 3abnkids.tv website, and so if you haven't had an opportunity to do that, there's a lot of crafts that you can download for free, and it's just getting the supplies and make them at your church club meetings. That's kind of fun too. So tell us a little bit about how you are developing your character. What's something that you want to work toward? Because God wants us to constantly grow. You mentioned how your friends are growing. So how are you growing also, Quan?
I want to be early to church so I can help out them more.
Prompt and punctual.
Prompt and punctual. Now I know at your church, you do something at church. What do you do at church? Sometimes you help out at church. What do you do?
I help with the cameras and setting everything up. And everything in the control center and stuff like that.
So you help out at the control center?
Yes.
I think we have a couple of pictures.
Oh, there it
you are
is.
with is that a camera that you have there?
Yes.
Yes. And so you're taking pictures too and video taping?
Yes. We live streaming the.
That's very interesting. And then there you are in the control room, so you're learning what's happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
Very nice. I like how you're witnessing like that. So I know I think Steven touched a little bit about it, but when you are in charge of these responsibilities, you have to be mindful of being what?
Prompt and punctual.
Prompt and punctual.
Being on time.
Being on time. What happens if you were late for a church function?
Then I would.
Yeah, they're depending on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why did you decide that was one character trait that you wanted to improve on?
Because I wanted to do work for the Lord, and to do that I have to be early to help them.
Okay. Right. And so you were noticing that many times you'd be late for something. Is that why you thought about it, or what made you think about needing to be more prompt and on time? So what strategies do you do to be more prompt and on time? Like if you were running late, what do you do?
Look on your watch, I guess.
You look and you watch.
I would wake up early or put an alarm clock.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, wake up early.
So it could wake me up early, so I would not have to rush to get to church. So I could be there early.
Is there anything else that you do? Either one of you? Steven, anything that you do?
I asked God to help me be more prompt and punctual.
More prompt and punctual?
And pray and read the Bible.
You know, sometimes it helps when you know you have a big day ahead. Sometimes it's just as simple as putting your clothes aside and already planning ahead. So sometimes, do you ever make a list? Like what you need to do? Like when I was getting ready for some days, and when you have a lot of things to do, I have to make a list and start checking things off. Have you tried doing that, Quan?
Yes.
Yeah. So we can all do something like that. And another strategy that I've noticed is that sometimes you want to add a few more minutes to your time of getting ready. Like if you know something that takes about a half an hour to get to your church, for example, I usually try to plan another 15 minutes ahead of time so that nobody's waiting for me. Like I don't mind waiting for somebody else, but I really don't like it when somebody has to wait for me. How do you feel about when you have to wait for somebody?
Yeah. I feel okay.
You feel okay about that? Yeah. Okay, but do you like people waiting on you? Yeah. So it's okay to wait for your mom or dad or be helpful. But yeah, so sometimes even putting a stopwatch, do you know how long it takes you to do homework sometimes?
Sometimes like 13 minutes or more.
Okay, and do you ever use a stopwatch and time yourself how long something takes?
Yes.
Yeah, I notice you have a watch. Let me see your watch. I notice you have a watch too, and this happens to be my daughter's watch. Yeah, so you have a watch, and so you sometimes timing yourself or even planning ahead what you're going to do is a good strategy of making sure that you're going to be on time for something, right? Mm-hmm. I think one of our Bible texts, and let's look up Proverbs 21, verse 5. And Steven, would you kindly read that to us?
The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty.
Poverty. So you know what that Bible text tells me? Do you want to say what that means?
It means that when you're diligent and you do one thing at a time and keep your time, then take your time, you will be able to do more things. But when you just keep on being fast and hasty, then
you don't make good decisions either.
Yeah, you make good decisions.
So sometimes you have to go back and redo things. I don't know about you, but sometimes I have to redo things if I'm in haste, but using our time wisely and making sure that we're thoughtful for other people and being prompt. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Quan, about being prompt and being on time and punctual?
No, not really.
Not really? No. So sometimes, you know, when I want to be punctual and on time and I'm really worried about something, I do have to pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
pray and read the Bible.
Correct. And sometimes it's just the fact that we need to think of others first and not having them wait for us. So you being having a job at church and with technology, you do want to be punctual and on time. So
And prompt.
yeah, and prompt. So have you ever been late on live streaming at your church?
Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah, and so what happens? You're disappointing these people at church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're starting at 11 o'clock, for example, our church starts right at 11 o'clock, we want to be right on time. And I'm so glad that God is always right on time. You know, I'm thinking about the story of Lazarus. Remember how Lazarus had died? And then his sisters are there and saying, "Oh, Jesus, if you had only come earlier, my brother wouldn't have died." And what happened? What did Jesus say?
He said that he rose them again.
He still rose. He asked Lazarus to come out. But you know what? It seemed like that Jesus was running late. Mm-hmm. But who's always on time?
Jesus.
Jesus is on time.
He knew that he let the people him die so he could tell people that he can rise people from the dead. And also, like the story of the little girl, people they were saying, "Oh, you don't have to worry the master anymore because she's already dead." And so Jesus knew that, and he knew that people would keep on saying, "Oh, Jesus can heal the sick, but he can't raise the dead."
And now we see that Jesus was the master of even death, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So yes, so sometimes does God always answer our prayer right away? No. But we know that his answer and the will of him will happen at the right time. So even though we sometimes feel like we don't have the will of God, we can be sure that God is answering for our good. And those who work hard and are diligent, we know that he will bless us because he is working through us, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's time for a question.
This question goes to you, Aunt Francine, from author, and he asks, who's the famous man in history?
Well, the famous person in my book would be Jesus. Of course, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, but you know, some other people believe that Napoleon Bonaparte was a famous person there in France. He was a general, and I'm sure he had to be prompt and on time, right?
Or he wouldn't be an emperor in the French Revolution.
You're right.
And the French Revolution was really bloody then.
It was a big deal, and a lot of people lost their lives. You're right. But another famous person that a lot of people believe...
William Shakespeare.
Shakespeare, you're right. And what do we know about William Shakespeare, Quan?
He was a playwright.
Playwright.
And he wrote comedians. He was kind of like a comedian. He'd write things to make people laugh or talk about tragedies. And he's also written a few poems. But yeah, he's another famous person. But I'm really glad that Jesus is really our example, right?
And the most famous person.
I believe so. So I'm so thankful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
And I know you wanted to share a little bit about the dollar, St. Lucia dollar. Can you show that for us?
The $20 bill.
Oh, it's a $20 bill. What can you buy for a $20 bill?
About 3 bags of chips.
3 bags of chips. So for us, yeah, that's not very much with the $20. But I really appreciate you sharing with us a little bit about St. Lucia and why you wanted to be more punctual. I appreciate you joining us. And you know what? We can always learn from Jesus as our example. Thanks for joining us on
Kids Express!